This tutorial video is the first of 3 videos where I'll go over in detail the use of the Case Management Activities module. In the first video, I'll go over some of the basics regarding the Case Management module and how to set up and use the risk assessment form. In the second video, I'll detail how to report contacts with case management clients. And in the third video, I will review how to both close a participant case and put a participant case on hold. All 3 videos can be found on the DCYF website, and at the end of this video, you'll be able to jump directly to the second tutorial video. I will not be going over the basic use of the CMS reporting, such as setting up new participants and staff. If you are brand new to the CMS, we recommend that you attend one of the monthly beginner CMS trainings that DCYF offers. This tutorial is specifically for those programs funded to provide case management services. In it, I will walk you through how to accurately report your case management services. If you are not funded to provide case management services, then this video is not applicable for you. If you are in any way uncertain whether you are funded to provide case management services, please contact your program officer for clarification. The first step in reporting your activities for Case Management Grant is determining whether or not the activity should be recorded under Case Management, individual, or group activities. Some programs offer youth opportunities to participate in program activities in addition to their case management services. For example, your program may run a group activity with youth that is separate from the case management services, such as a youth leadership group or individual counseling. When a youth in case management participates in these other group or individual activities, you should enter them under group or individual activities. But activities related to their case management services should always be entered under case management. Case management services are those activities that are focused on the case plan developed for the youth. It's important, however, that you do not report group or individual activities under your case management grant, if your case management grant is not paying for these specific activities. If you have any questions about these guidelines, do not hesitate to call your program officer. In the past, we have said that the risk reduction and linkage services could be entered under case management or individual activities. We are no longer wanting you to report your RRL services as individual activities. Instead, you should report your activities for these participants under case management as well. If you are providing restorative or intensive services, the policy is the same as last year. You must use the case management module to record the services provided. Now, before you start recording any case management services in the CMS for a client, you must have completed a risk assessment form for that client and reported the result in the CMS. Many of the programs have already completed the risk assessment for their clients and can move on directly to reporting the case management services provided. But for those that have not done so, I will walk through how to set up and record the result of a risk assessment in the CMS. But before I can start doing that, I must make sure that I've set up a form for the risk assessment. Now, all programs funded in case management in 2009-10 should have their form for the risk assessment already set up. But let's walk through the steps in case there is still some confusion about how this form is created. Let's go ahead and set up the risk assessment form. This is the form you'll use to enter the results of your assessments for all your participants. Remember, if you already have the form set up, you don't have to set it up again. The form can be used across fiscal years. Let's set up the form now. We're starting here at the home page for the sample CMS account. First, we'll click on the assessment button here, like this. This takes us to the assessments page. You can see that for this sample account, no risk assessment form has been set up. If you already set up a risk assessment form, it would be listed here, and you do not want to create a new risk assessment form. Rather, you should use the form that you've already created. However, if no assessment has been created and the screen looks like this, then you'll need to create a new risk assessment form. To create this form, you can either click this link here or click the Add Definitions tab at the top here, like this. This takes us to the Add Assessments page. You will enter the data in all the required fields. First, you enter the assessment name, risk level assessment. Next, you will assign the risk assessment type by selecting it from the drop-down menu. This is a risk assessment, so you will select risk. Next, we will select the subject of the assessment, and because this is for case management, we will always select case management. Now we will select the appropriate scale for this case management assessment. For all case management assessments, you will select the RRL Restorative and Intensive option here, like this. Lastly, you will enter a brief description for the assessment. It can be simply something like this. Or, if you use a specific assessment tool, you can also include the name of this tool in the description. Now you can complete setting up the form by clicking the yellow Create button at the top of the page here, like this. This completes setting up the risk assessment form. But remember, before you start entering case management services for a client, you must enter the results of a risk assessment for that specific client. If you don't do this, you will not get credit for the contacts and hours you enter for that client. Any contacts and hours entered for a client into case management that does not have a risk assessment will not be counted. To fill out a risk assessment for a specific client, you can click on the assessment button here, like this. You will now see that I have a risk level assessment form set up here. To enter the results of your risk assessment for a specific client, first click on the risk level assessment link here, like this. This takes you to the general info page for that risk level assessment. To enter the results of a specific assessment, click on the yellow results tab at the top of the page here, like this. This takes us to a list of all of the specific risk assessment forms you have completed for specific participants. Right now, we have none set up, so it's blank. To complete a new form for a client, you must click on the yellow Enter by Assessment button at the top of the page here, like this. This takes us to the Add Assessment Result page. First, you must enter the assessment date. You can click on the calendar button to select the date like this. Next, you select what participant you assessed here from the drop-down menu like this. Note that you must have already set up the participant record for your participant. If you don't know how to do this, please sign up for the Beginner CMS training where we will go over the basic introduction to the CMS. I will go ahead and select participant. Next, you must select the risk level score from the drop-down menu like this. I will go ahead and select intensive. Most programs will only have one funding source, but if there are two, be sure to select the appropriate funding source for the program providing case management services. I will select Sample Agency 1. To complete the risk assessment results for this client, you can click the Save and Return button here. If you are entering multiple assessment results for multiple clients at one time, you can enter the Save and Enter Another button here to continue entering results. The assessment scores will now be stored in the participant's record. If you need to edit a risk level assessment already created, you can do so by simply clicking the Edit for the corresponding participant here. Now that you've completed an assessment form for a participant, you can go ahead and start recording contacts through the case management module for that participant. I will walk you through how to do this in the next case management tutorial video. Please click on the pop-up link now to go to the next video. Or you can access the second video on the DCYF website.